Thanks for tuning in to The Real Deal Show, brought to you by eBodyboarding.com and Tribe Boards. Well, hey there, folks. Welcome back to The Real Deal Show. Thanks for tuning in again or listening on the podcast. We appreciate that. We did part one of the Vicki Reale interview, and I thought let's just pick it straight up and do part two. So just to recap the end of part one, you had quit university to be a professional bodyboarder.
A professional beach bum.
You had eschewed all higher education in lieu of traveling the world and riding a rectangular piece of foam. So you had moved over to California. You were living with me in San Clemente here, and we started to really go about the business of being pro bodyboarder. So obviously you needed to finance all these travels. So how did that happen? You picked up some sponsorship at some point.
I think I had Innovision Surf Shop in Port Macquarie. They kind of hooked me up with my first sponsors, which was BZ Bodyboards and Ocean One wetsuits. And then I think that was while I was traveling that first year with you. And then because I went to Hawaii and I got shots in the magazine and I was kind of getting in the magazines, I then got approached by Rio Piper, maybe it was Rio Piper.
Was it Manta by that point? No, not yet.
Not yet. I think it was Rio Piper. So I got some boards from them. Terry McKenna was the team manager, I think. And Cuda Lines, I got sponsorship from them. I don't know. Over the years, I had Cheetah swimwear. I think Manta was my next big one. Maybe by the time I moved in with you, because I remember having the Vicki model with Manta, and you were sponsored by Moray, and Manta Japan would bring me over to Japan, and Moray would bring you over to Japan, right? And then,
women's bodyboarding was massive in Japan.
Yeah.
There were more female bodyboarders over there than male. So
yeah.
And the magazines that existed in Japan, Flipper magazine in particular, and BB Life mag were totally skewed towards girls. All the cover shots were female riders, and the articles were about clothing and fashion and makeup and just girl-related issues. Yeah. So you fit in perfectly with that.
Yeah, and I think Masahiko and a couple of the other Japanese photographers in Hawaii would take pictures of me that winter when I first went, and so I'd get shots in the Flipper magazine too. So I became kind of known over there, and then being sponsored by Manta Japan brought me over, and we did the GOB tour events, I think, that year the first year we went over.
Maybe. The GOB tour started in 1995 in Portugal. Yeah. Actually, it was the first event at Viana do Castelo. But eventually, the second year, which was 96, was the first GOB event in Japan.
Okay. So did we go to Japan before that?
I don't recall going before that. We may have, though, for some one-off events that were not part of any world tour. They were just events in Japan.
Promotional events. Maybe.
Yeah, some of them were promo events. They would invite riders, overseas riders, over there. Some of the large surf shops and distributors over there would bring in international pro riders just to promote the sport and compete in the event to lend it some prestige.
What was that surf shop called?
I don't know. There was a few. There was Murasaki Sports.
It was a department store. Anyway.
Murasaki Sports. Yeah. They had like a 4-story surf shop. It was crazy. All over the place. They had several.
So to answer your question, I think I just got sponsored. I don't know if I got money then. I know they were paying my entry fees, and when I'd go to Japan, they'd cover my costs. But eventually, I think they gave me money to little bits here and there to kind of help on the world tour, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Well, you probably had a travel fund at some point there.
And I know you had a travel fund with Moray, so it worked out well. We would kind of do trips where you could spend your travel fund and I could spend mine, and we could either go, on a photo trip to some place, and you'd set up those trips that would help us to promote our sponsors, bring a photographer, go to these locations that of course we'd want to go surf anyway, but to use travel fund money was awesome, and we knew it would help our career. So
your profile got pretty big in Japan to the point where you attracted the attention of a large sportswear company called Descente. They had several little brands under the Descente umbrella, one of which was Arena. Now, Arena has been involved in sporting goods for many years, soccer,
Olympic swim,
all kinds
swimmers.
Kinds of products. But they wanted to take a dive into bodyboarding because it was exploding in Japan. And the Japanese riders, or the female riders, really sort of looked up to the overseas girls from Brazil and so forth. And you were like the lone non-Brazilian on the world tour. So
they used to call me Vicki Reale from Australia, Vicki Reale, and I was this 18, 19, 20-year-old, whatever I was.
Ah, Vicki, little head.
Yeah, they used to say Vicki Reale, Vicki Reale, little head. But I was this blonde Australian, bodyboarder girl that got in their magazines. So to them, I looked like a I don't know, pro bodyboarding star, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it was crazy. We'd go over there for events and people would be, flocking to get your autograph. And fortunately, Manta, my sponsor, Arena or Descente contacted them to try and get in touch with me, and they wanted to meet with me to propose a sponsorship agreement. So I remember me going to this big boardroom in Tokyo.
Yeah, because by the way, Manta was making the Arena boards, as I recall.
That might have been it. Yeah.
So they wanted to hop you over to the Arena brand.
Yeah, so I remember going to this boardroom in Tokyo and, up these flights of stairs and walking in with all these Japanese men in their business attire, and they kind of said to me, what do you want? We want to make a whole Vicki line of boards and fins and wetsuits, and
you had a clothing sponsor, Voodoo Dolls.
Oh yeah, out of Australia.
So right. You had to break that contract, as I recall.
I think so, yeah. And I think the end result was Arena offered me $60,000 a year to ride for them, and
which in that era, mid-90s, was big bucks.
Yeah, so I'm like, there you go, Dad. It's my beach bum career.
$60K.
Yeah, so I faxed the contract to my dad and mom and said, look, I was super stoked to continue doing what I loved with Jay, and got this sponsor, and, they're going to support me. And so that was definitely one of the highlights of my career, to get that contract. And I think it was a 3-year contract. And so yeah, I was able to live off that for years and travel and do the tour. And 1995 through 98, you had that deal. And it also enabled us, short little side note, to buy a block of land in Port Macquarie.
Yeah.
My hometown.
In 97.
Jay had a pretty solid sponsor, and I did, and we thought, let's buy this block of land. Look at this block of land that's available at Lighthouse Beach. So that was
97. We bought that land.
Yeah, we weren't married or anything. No.
Not yet.
So that was kind of risky.
It was risky on my part.
Yeah, it was.
Because here you are, an Australian citizen. And you could have just taken the land and run.
Yeah, and I think we paid like $130,000 or something.
$135,000.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, cheap. But in any case, also during that period, you were competing. You were doing pretty well. You were like in the top 8 on the world tour. Yeah. Again, the lone non-Brazilian in the top 8. And there was a couple other riders in the female side of things from Japan and Europe that were moving up the ranks, but you and 7 other Brazilian riders were the top 8 riders on the tour. And at that point, she was appearing not only in the Japanese mags, but then you and I went on a photo trip to Western Australia with George DiMarino and Guilherme Tamaga. Tom Boyle, and who was our still photographer? It was, I can't recall.
Was it Tom? No.
Maybe he was shooting both.
Yeah, because he got the cover shot.
Right? I don't know who shot, but anyway, Vicki ended up getting an epic shot at South Beach, shore break down there, and ended up being the first female on the cover of Riptide magazine, which was a big deal at the time.
Yeah.
The other big mag in Australia was Australian Bodyboarder, and that was owned by a large publishing group that also owned Playboy magazine.
Oh, yes.
And Playboy magazine saw that there was a lot of letters coming into the bodyboard publications asking for more Vicki. We want more Vicki. We want to see Vicki in bodyboarding. We want to see her in swimsuits. And we want to see her not in a swimsuit. So they reached out to Vicki and said, we want to do like a full photo pictorial of you, sans clothing. So what did you do then?
So they said, will you pose naked in Playboy magazine? And of course, I've got this conservative Japanese sponsor, and I'm like, even if I didn't, would I? They weren't offering, a huge amount to do it, and I knew it would jeopardize my sponsorship. I think I even went to them, did I, and asked them what they thought? Or maybe
I don't remember.
I can't remember. But of course, I don't think they would have, or they didn't. So, I was tempted, but I didn't end up,
Do you have regrets about that?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Okay. Well, hey, it's not too late.
Oh, jeez.
Australian Playboy. Come knocking. We'll see what she says.
I'm a little older, a little saggier, but people like that.
So we had a... No, you're not. You're awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Gorgeous. Anyway, so you had a great sponsorship package with Arena. They supported you with clothing, boards, fins. You were like 100% Arena, like no other sponsors,
awesome.
which is part of the deal. It was an exclusive sponsorship deal, and it was ending at the end of 1998, that contract. My contract with Maury was through 1999, excuse me, but they were selling the brand, so they wanted to cut all liabilities, and they cut my contract at the end of 98, which matched up with the end of your contract. So it was the end of 1998. You and I were then engaged to be married.
Yeah,
which we skipped over, by the way.
Yeah.
In early 98, we were in Hawaii for the Pipeline event, and we had been dating for 7 years at that point. And, we just figured, someday we'll get married, but I sort of left it in your lap. I was like, hey, I'm 9.5 years older than you. I'm ready whenever you are, but no pressure. You just tell me. So what happened?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I knew that Jay was the one, but what's the hurry? We were enjoying life. And, when I knew our careers were ending, we didn't know where we were going to be. I was like, you know what? Maybe we should it's a good time. Let's get married. I'm like, what am I going to say? Get on your knees, Jay. Propose to me. I'm ready. So I concocted a plan at the end of the World Tour event in Hawaii. After the pipe contest, we always had an awards banquet at Turtle Bay. And I'm like, maybe I'm going to do it there. I'm going to do it in front of everyone. So I let a few people know, Claudia Ferrari, Bobby Quinones from Puerto Rico, who was my video guy, I think, or maybe he just
he got a clip,
Yeah, so...
Mandy Zirin was the one who was supposed to video the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Mandy.
There's a story behind that as well.
So I told Bob... what's Bob's name?
Bob Thomas, who ran the
GOB.
The Pipeline event, and was a GOB executive.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and I said, can you call Jay and I up at one point? Because I have a plan or something. So he calls Jay and I up for a pretend award. I don't know if it was a pretend award or not. Maybe
I think it was an award because I was the media guy. I'd type all the press releases, and he wanted to give me an award for that or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. So we get up there, and I just got on the mic and said, thanks, everyone, and I wanted to take this opportunity. And basically, I proposed to Jay and said, will you marry me? And so
in front of all our World Tour bodyboarding friends. What an amazing thing.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Mandy, by the way, the side note is that Mandy hit she had been recording, didn't realize it, and then hit stop right when Vicki proposed.
That's right.
And then started recording again after, thinking, she was doing the opposite. So poor Mandy. But fortunately, there was a lot of people with video cameras, and our friend Babby Quinones from Puerto Rico happened to also capture it on video, and he was kind enough to make a copy, send it to me in California. Anyway, long story short.
So Jay said yes.
Yeah. And we planned to get married the following winter, January of 1999 in Hawaii, because we figured, hey, we want all our bodyboarding, pro bodyboarding and friends to be there, and Hawaii is where everybody was at that time of year.
Yeah, and it was a good central location for my family in Australia, and Jay's in Maryland, kind of, everyone fly to meet in Hawaii, which is where we kind of hooked up and started our careers together. Oh, I did, and, I proposed to him, so it was kind of the place that we knew we had to kind of get married. So
yeah, Hawaii, has a special place for us because of the beginning of our relationship, all the things that Vicki just mentioned. And so end of December 1998, we stopped getting paid to bodyboard on December 31st, 1998. And at that point, I was like 34 years old, about getting ready to turn 35, and you were 9.5 years younger. But I didn't think it was to my best interest to try to find a sponsorship. And I knew there was no way I could get the kind of money I got with Maury
and I feel
during my career.
Pro bodyboarding kind of took a turn around then, didn't it?
Well, there was probably a dip at that point. I mean, the world tour was still going, but there was less money coming in from sponsorships at that point. And Maury, at the top of the heap, sort of selling the brand,
cut everyone.
Yeah, they cut the whole team and then re-signed some people back at half salary. So at that point, I was like, man, I guess it's time to hang it up. I had a degree. I could have taught school, but I really wanted to stay involved in the surfing or bodyboarding industry, right?
Yeah. So we were like, what are we going to do?
What are we going to do? We had, 6 months worth of money in the bank to pay, my mortgage. I owned a condo at that point, and insurance, all the daily expenses. And so we thought, okay, what can I do? Worst case scenario, I can be a substitute teacher because I have a teaching degree and I can make money that way to pay the bills. But let's see if I can make it in the surf industry. So I started sending out resumes to be a sales rep with surf companies. Got no responses, just dead in the water, right? So that was a dead end. And then, fortunately, as I recall, we were having a conversation with Tom Maury, and I had been getting email, and internet had just kind of started in the late 90s, and I was getting emails from fans, bodyboarding fans around the world, like, oh, I live in this, far-flung place, and we can't get good bodyboards here, and
or which board should I get?
What should I get? Asking advice, and Vicki and I were talking with each other, and we thought, man, there's something to this. And Tom Maury, we were talking to him one day because he's here in California, and he kind of said, you guys should start an online surf shop. And we everything sort of came together, and we said, that's not a bad idea.
We've got nothing else going on.
the dot-com boom, which was a thing in the late 90s. All these companies were starting up on the internet to sell stuff. E-commerce was in its infancy, and we thought, let's try it with bodyboarding. And there were naysayers. There were people that said, oh, this is a flash in the pan. Nobody's going to buy bodyboards on the internet. That's crazy. And we developed a little business plan and went to a trade show in San Diego, which used to be. We
just need to make $100 a day. If we can make $100 a day.
Yeah, and luckily, Vicki had some computer skills. I didn't really have any computer skills other than typing, and she built a website on a real basic early platform called Yahoo Store. And she built a basic website, and we reached out to all our friends who were in the industry, and Custom X, Debbie Caldwell and Dave Kniff, were like the first vendor that we made an agreement with. They said, yep, we'll sell you product, no problem. And then Viper Fins came on board. And some of the vendors, some of the companies who were good friends of ours wouldn't sell to us. They thought we were going to discount everything, because we didn't have overhead. We were operating out of our condo, the condo that we lived in.
It was new and unknown.
It was new.
Yeah.
So there was the fear that, they're going to undercut all the surf shops, put all the surf shops out of business, so we're not going to sell product to them. So we were pretty taken aback. We were like looking up, what's the law behind this? Can they do this? Can they deny selling to us? Is that restraint of trade? What did they call that? So we were, I guess we were kind of hurt, like these are our friends and they won't even trust us to sell to us. So I had applied for some jobs and I actually got hired to work as the sales rep for BZ Bodyboard.
Yeah,
so I thought
we didn't know if our
we didn't know if it worked.
website would make it. By the way, it was unrealsurf.com.
That was the original name that we came up with.
Because we didn't want to niche ourselves down to just bodyboarding. We thought, we'd just be a surf shop.
Yeah, so we thought, let's use the last name, Real, because people know that. And I had a Maury model called the Unreal. So I wasn't thinking long term. I should have been thinking early on, okay, people maybe know who we are as pro bodyboarders now, but in 5 years, 10 years, they won't know who Jay and Vicki Reale are. So we should have a name that's timeless, So after maybe a year or less, we thought, we got to put the word bodyboarding in the name.
I think it was Simon Ramsey that...
Simon told us to use our last name.
Oh,
sorry, Simon. Okay. But so we switched. We looked up different bodyboard names, and E in front of anything at that time was a big deal. There was eBay, eHealth Insurance, E-Trade. Yeah. It stood for electronic, so because everything was done on the internet or on computers, right? So we put E in front of bodyboarding and started eBodyboarding.com. And
niche down to get out of the big surfing bubble and focus on what we loved, which is bodyboarding. It was a good move. Apparently.
Yeah. So we had paid for an ad in Bodyboarding magazine. We had paid for some inventory from Custom X and Viper, and basically tapped out our savings to buy the inventory and pay for the ad. And the idea was launch the site to coincide with the release of Bodyboarding magazine and the ad to come out. And that's what we did. Vicki was working like 14-hour days, staying up all night, building the website, and I was probably
15th,
doing
tax
nothing. Yeah, so tax day, 1999.
And all this was out of Jay's condo, out of his garage in his condo.
Yeah, the garage was the warehouse.
You should show that picture.
Yeah, if I can find it. Yeah, for the YouTube viewers, I will try to put up some slides here. But in any case, we launched April 15, 1999. We got an order the first day. A guy's name was John Kazira. He lived in Upland or Ontario. Anyway, I still have the shipping notification. I had to go to the post office and actually physically mail the item. Yeah. So then we had a couple days with no orders, and we were like, "Oh man, this is a bust. This is not going to work." But once the ad came out and the magazine got distributed, people started getting interested, and then we started getting a pretty steady flow of orders. Not a ton, but a few a day.
But did you finish your story about the BZ rep?
Oh, the BZ thing, yeah. So I got the job while she was building the site during that period, January through April of 1999. I took a job in March of 99, and I was due to start the job on March 15th. I remember that because it was my parents' anniversary. And I went snowboarding on the 14th with Ross McBride, Nels Velocito, Jordan Hetrick to Big Bear, and I proceeded to break my collarbone. First time I ever broke a bone. I was 35 years old at that point. I couldn't believe it the day before I was starting this job. So I show up at the job day one, my arm in a sling, and they're like, "Oh, what happened to you?" And I said, "Man, I broke my collarbone, but I'm fine. I can still be a sales rep. I can go into shops and talk to shop owners and sell BZ boards to these shop owners." And the guy who had hired me, his name's Dave Rubin, who, by the way, stopped in here about 2 weeks ago. First time I've seen him in many, many years. Great to see you, Dave, if you happen to catch this show. Anyway, he had caught wind that we were building a website to sell retail, and he immediately said to me, like the first hour I was in that office to train to be a sales rep, he says, you know, you're going to be going into these shops and they're going to find out that you're trying to compete with them and selling the same stuff they are. So how do you think that's going to go down? You're trying to get them to buy stuff, and then you're going to come around the back and compete against them for the same customers.
Competition, yeah.
They're not going to like that. So that night I went home to Vicki, and we kind of had a heart-to-heart, and I decided, you know what, this is like the put your all your eggs in one basket or not moment for me. I can either just quit the BZ gig immediately before I get too deep down that road and commit wholeheartedly to eBodyboarding or then unrealsurf.com, or I can not have faith that it's going to work and take the BZ job. But I chose to take the risk because I really felt, and Vicki did too, that it was going to work. It was going to happen.
$100 a day.
Yeah, we did a calculation. We needed to profit $100 a day to pay our bills, to break even. So I called the guy the next morning. I said, Dave, thank you so much. I'm quitting the job. And then I ended up recommending Brian Press for that gig. And he got the gig, and he was the BZ rep for a good amount of time there. And he ended up being our rep, as I recall, because we bought boards from him when BZ eventually relinquished, or I should say relented, and agreed to sell to us. Mm-hmm. So then we were off and running. And where did we go from there?
Just out of the garage, I think just every week or every month, we sold a little bit more. We end up getting in more product, maybe more vendors. Yeah,
it started, half the garage was the warehouse. Then we had to use the full garage and move both cars out. And we did that for 2.5 years.
And we got an employee.
We did hire a guy. His name was Mike. And he didn't work out too good.
Spare bedroom at the condo.
Mike didn't work out too well. He eventually stopped working for us at our request. Yes. But in any case, so we started there. We were there 2.5 years, and
we had Robert next.
Yeah, Robert Terrell, and
our next employee.
Yeah, so we had a few employees in that office. I think Kane Johnson maybe worked in there. Anyway, Kane later went on to have his own model with Custom X, the Big Daddy Kane model. Right. Some of you old school guys and girls may recall that. So we then sort of outgrew that location. We needed more warehouse.
And I think we were getting UPS deliveries.
We were.
I don't think the neighbors liked that or something.
Eventually we had a complaint from the homeowners association. Yeah. Somebody complained that we had UPS trucks coming in and out. Didn't bother anyone. Didn't get in anyone's way. But some old, crabby dude probably decided he didn't like it. So anyway, it all coincided with us shopping around for a warehouse, and we eventually found one here in San Clemente, a little small warehouse office space, and we moved in there and expanded. We had a lot more warehouse space now.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And so then the business continued to grow. We switched sales platforms from old Yahoo store to different something called PIMS, remember?
And we had a baby.
Oh, so yeah.
Right.
So that was in 2000. We moved into that new office in 2001. I remember because I went in on 9/11 to pay our deposit check to move in there.
Oh, crazy.
So we had been operating out of the house for 2 years. Then we moved into that office in, I guess it was probably late September 2001. So we've been, as I said, 2.5 years out of the condo. And then we moved into that office warehouse. And then in 2003, we had our first child.
Sage,
that was Sage.
Mm-hmm.
So
we bring her to work with our dog Kea.
Yep.
We've even got pictures of that. I wonder if you can find
I
those.
don't know, but Sage would kind of crawl around and pull stuff off the shelves if we let her. So
all the No Friends DVDs.
DVDs, we had stuff stored everywhere. So, and then in 2003, after Sage was born, the business continued to grow, and Vicki and I think it was end of 2003, we finally said, we've run out of room here. We need a bigger place. So we started looking around, like we need to lease a bigger building with more warehouse space. And there were some new buildings getting built here in San Clemente in 2003. And we happened to come across this business park. This is where we still are today in 2021. And this building was a slab of concrete in a brand new business park. And we did the math and we decided, this is...
Let's not rent. Let's see if we can buy it.
Yeah, maybe the monthly payment was like the same as if it would cost a lease, because we had socked away a bit of cash to put as a down payment on this place. So we said, let's do it. We ended up buying this awesome building. We've been
2003,
since 2000. Yeah, we moved in here. Well, we signed the paperwork in, I think, January 2004. We had to wait for the building to finish building.
Right,
and in July of 2004, we moved in here. And we did it in one weekend. It was July 4th weekend, I remember, because I spent like 16 hours a day in here, like setting up shelves and internet and computers. It was horrendous because we had to move from the old place into the new place. So we pulled that off. We moved into this location. I don't want to say the rest is history because it's still continuing. We're still evolving. And we can get more into the business side of things in another show. I think we've gone long enough now with our Jay and Vicki and eBodyboarding beginnings story. There's lots more to cover in a future show, but for now, I will wrap this one up and say we are super stoked that all of you, and many of you, have been customers of ours for almost as long as we've been in business, some of you.
Yeah, crazy.
You know who you are if you're watching or listening. And thanks to Vicki for sharing her story.
Fun bringing up these memories.
Yeah, she's still with me after all these years. I don't know. And now we have 2 kids. We have a son as well. So our daughter is now almost 18. Our son will be 14 coming up here in November. So that gives you an idea. They have grown up with us running this business.
Hence, Jay's got no hair.
Yeah, I lost my hair. The kids made me lose my hair.
The kids?
And the stress of the business and my... No, I won't say that. I won't agree with you.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Married to your
That's our relationship podcast.
In business. There you go. Maybe
we'll
I have to get Keith Yackey in here.
Oh, geez. Keith. Wow. No, we won't step on your territory there, pal. Anyway, more about that some other time. So, folks, thank you for watching and listening. Be sure to give it the thumbs up if you like it. Post some comments down below if you're watching on the YouTube channel. And if you're listening to the podcast, hope you enjoyed listening while you're driving or working out or whatever it is you do while you listen to podcasts. And that is it for this edition of The Real Deal Show, folks. We will see you and talk to you next time. See you in the surf.
See ya.